Once upon a time, in a land far beyond the mountains and across the deep blue seas, there was a kingdom named Eldoria. This kingdom was known far and wide for its beauty, its prosperity, and most of all, its people who were as diverse as the flowers in a vast meadow. Eldoria was ruled by a wise and just king named Alden. King Alden was loved by his people for his fairness, his generosity, and the peace he had maintained for many years. King Alden had a son, Prince Eric, who was strong, brave, and kind hearted. But Eric was not like other princes who were content to live a life of luxury within the palace walls. Eric had a deep, burning curiosity about the world beyond the kingdom. He often ventured into the villages, talking to the people, learning their stories, and helping those in need. But as much as Eric loved his kingdom, his heart yearned for something more, an adventure, a quest that would test his limits and help him discover who he truly was. One day, as Eric was walking through the palace gardens, he noticed a strange bird perched on a branch. The bird was unlike any he had ever seen. Its feathers shimmered with a rainbow of colors, and its eyes seemed to hold a deep wisdom. As Eric approached, the bird did not fly away, but instead spoke in a soft, melodious voice. Prince Eric, the bird said, I have come with a message for you. Far beyond the borders of Eldoria lies the land of Nimmer, a place of great magic and mystery. But Nimra is in grave danger. The Shadow King, an ancient sorcerer, has returned from exile and seeks to plunge the land into darkness. The people of Nimra need hero, someone brave and true, to stop the Shadow King and restore peace. Eric listened in awe, his heart pounding with excitement. This was the adventure he had been waiting for. How do I reach Nimra? He asked. The bird tilted its head and replied, to reach Nimura, you must follow the river of stars, which flows through the valley of echoes and into the forest of whispers. There you will find the gateway of dreams, a portal that will take you to Nimura. But beware, for the journey is perilous and many challenges await you. Without hesitation, Eric decided to embark on this quest. He knew he could not go alone, so he sought out his three closest friends: Lyra, a skilled archer with eyes as sharp as a hawk; Kale, a warrior whose strength was matched only by his loyalty; and Mira, a healer whose touch could mend even the deepest wounds. Together, they formed a formidable team, ready to face whatever dangers lay ahead. Before leaving, Eric went to his father, King Alden, to tell him of his decision. The king listened quietly, his face a mix of pride and concern. My son, King Alden said, you have always been a seeker of truth and justice, and I know you will succeed in your quest. But remember, true strength lies not only in the sword, but in the heart. Trust in your friends and trust in yourself. With his father's blessing, Eric and his companions set out on their journey. They traveled through the kingdom, following the bird's directions, until they reached the River of Stars. The river was unlike any they had seen before. Its waters sparkled as if filled with tiny diamonds, and the night sky above mirrored its brilliance. As they followed the river, they entered the Valley of Echoes, a place where every sound was amplified and seemed to come from all directions. In the valley, they encountered their first challenge. As they walked, they began to hear voices, whispers that grew louder and more insistent, filling their minds with doubts and fears. The voices taunted them, trying to turn them against each other, sowing seeds of mistrust. But Eric, remembering his father's words, reminded his friends to stay strong and united. These voices are illusions, he said. They seek to break us, but we must hold fast to our purpose. Lyra, Kale, and Mira nodded, drawing strength from each other. Together, they focused on the path ahead, ignoring the voices until they finally faded into silence. With the echoes behind them, they continued on their way and soon arrived at the edge of the Forest of Whispers. The forest was dark and thick with ancient trees, their twisted branches forming a canopy that blocked out the sunlight. As they entered, they could hear the trees whispering secrets in a language they could not understand. The whispers seemed to be coming from all around them, growing louder as they ventured deeper into the forest. Mira, the healer, felt a strange connection to the forest. She placed her hand on one of the trees and closed her eyes. After a moment, she spoke. The forest is alive, and it knows we are here. It is testing us, trying to see if we are worthy to pass through. Eric looked at his friends and said, "We must show the forest that we mean no harm and that we seek only to help the people of Nimra." Kale, the warrior, sheathed his sword and stood tall. "We are not here to fight the forest," he said. "We are here to seek its guidance." Lyra, the archer, lowered her bow and took a deep breath. "We are friends, not enemies," she whispered to the trees. As if in response, the forest grew quiet, and the whispers turned into a soft, welcoming breeze. The path before them cleared, and the gateway of dreams appeared in the distance, a shimmering archway made of light and shadow. The four friends approached the gateway, their hearts filled with both anticipation and trepidation. They knew that once they stepped through, there would be no turning back. But they also knew that they had come too far to stop now. Eric stepped forward first, and as he passed through the gateway, he felt a rush of energy, as if the very air around him was alive with magic. Lyra, Kale, and Mira followed close behind, and together they entered the land of Nimra. Nimra was a place of breathtaking beauty, with landscapes that seemed to shift and change with each passing moment. The skies were filled with colors that defied description, and the air was thick with the scent of flowers and spices. But despite its beauty, there was an underlying sense of unease, as if the land itself was holding its breath, waiting for something terrible to happen. As they journeyed through Nimra, Eric and his friends encountered many challenges. They faced treacherous terrain, battled fierce creatures, and solved ancient riddles. But with each trial, they grew stronger, their bond deepening as they relied on each other's strengths and talents. One day, they came across a village that had been devastated by the Shadow King's forces. The people were scared and hopeless, their homes reduced to ruins. Eric and his friends knew they could not simply pass by without helping. They spent several days in the village, rebuilding homes, tending to the wounded, and giving the villagers hope. During their time in the village, they learned more about the Shadow King. He had once been a powerful sorcerer who used his magic to protect the land, but over time, his heart had turned dark. He sought to control all of Nimr, and when the people resisted, he unleashed his fury upon them. Many had tried to stop him, but none had succeeded. Eric knew that to defeat the Shadow King, they would need more than just strength and courage. They would need knowledge of the magic that the Shadow King wielded and how to counter it. So they sought out the last of the ancient sages, a wise old woman named Alicia who lived in the mountains. Alicia welcomed them into her home, a cave filled with books, scrolls, and magical artifacts. She listened as Eric explained their quest, and then she told him the story of the Shadow King. Long ago, the Shadow King was known as Seraphis, a sorcerer of great power and even greater wisdom. Alicia began. He was a protector of Nimr, using his magic to keep the land in balance. But one day, he discovered an ancient forbidden spell, a spell that could grant immortality and limitless power. Seraphis was tempted, and in his pursuit of this spell, he lost himself. The darkness consumed him, and he became the Shadow King. Alicia continued, "The only way to defeat the Shadow King is to destroy the source of his power, the Heart of Shadows, a dark crystal that he keeps hidden in his fortress. The Heart of Shadows is the key to his immortality, but it is also his greatest weakness. If you can find the heart and destroy it, the Shadow King will be vulnerable." Eric nodded, understanding the gravity of the task before them. "How do we find the Heart of Shadows?" he asked. Alicia smiled sadly. "The Heart of Shadows is hidden deep within the Shadow King's fortress, a place of great darkness and despair. But there is hope. The Heart of Shadows is connected to the Heart of Light, a crystal that holds the purest form of magic. The Heart of Light was lost many years ago, but I believe it can still be found. With a Heart of Light, you can counter the Shadow King's power and find the Heart of Shadows." Eric and his friends thanked Alicia for her guidance and set out on the final leg of their journey. They traveled to the darkest corners of Nimmer, where the Shadow King's fortress loomed like a black cloud on the horizon. Along the way, they searched for the Heart of Light, following the clues Alicia had given them. After many trials and near defeats, they finally found the Heart of Light, hidden in a sacred grove protected by ancient guardians. The Heart of Light was a beautiful, glowing crystal that filled them with warmth and hope. With a Heart of Light in their possession, they felt a renewed sense of purpose. They approached the Shadow King's fortress, knowing that the final battle was at hand. The fortress was a place of nightmares, with twisted towers and walls that seemed to shift and move like living things. As they entered, they were confronted by the Shadow King's minions, creatures of darkness, born from his twisted magic. Eric, Lyra, Kale, and Mira fought bravely, using all the skills and knowledge they had gained on their journey. The Heart of Light proved to be their greatest weapon, weakening the dark creatures and guiding them through the maze-like fortress. Finally, they reached the Shadow King's throne room, a vast chamber filled with shadows and cold, empty space. There, on a pedestal of black stone, sat the Heart of Shadows, pulsing with dark energy. And beside it, shrouded in darkness, stood the Shadow King himself. The Shadow King was a fearsome figure, his form constantly shifting between man and shadow. His eyes glowed with a terrible light, and his voice was like the sound of 1,000 whispers. "You dare to challenge me?" the Shadow King hissed. "You are but children, playing with forces you cannot comprehend." Eric stepped forward, holding the Heart of Light in his hand. "We are here to end your reign of terror," he said, his voice steady. "You were once a protector of this land, but you have become a destroyer. It is time for you to be stopped." The Shadow King laughed, a cold, hollow sound that echoed through the chamber. "You think you can defeat me with that trinket?" he sneered. "The Heart of Shadows is beyond your reach. You will all perish here." With a wave of his hand, the Shadow King unleashed a torrent of dark magic. But Eric, fueled by the light of the Heart of Light and the love for his friends and his people, stood his ground. He focused all his energy on the Heart of Light, and a beam of pure light shot out, striking the Shadow King. The Shadow King screamed in pain as the light began to burn away the darkness that surrounded him. But he was not defeated yet. With a final desperate effort, he summoned all his power and attacked. Eric and his friends fought back with everything they had. Kale's strength, Lyra's precision, Myra's healing, all combined with the power of the Heart of Light. The battle was fierce, but they fought as one, their unity and determination unbreakable. In the end, it was not strength or magic that defeated the Shadow King, but love. Eric realized that the only way to truly defeat the darkness was to reach the man who had once been Seraphis. He spoke to the Shadow King, reminding him of who he had been, of the good he had once done. For a moment, the Shadow King hesitated, the darkness within him flickering. In that moment, Eric struck the heart of shadows with a heart of light. The two crystals collided, and a blinding light filled the room. When the light faded, the Shadow King was gone, and in his place stood Seraphis, a man once more. He looked at Eric with tears in his eyes. "Thank you," he whispered before fading away into the light. With the heart of shadows destroyed, the darkness that had plagued Nimera began to lift. The land slowly returned to its former beauty, and the people who had suffered under the Shadow King's rule began to rebuild their lives. Eric and his friends returned to Eldoria as heroes, their hearts filled with the knowledge that they had not only saved a land, but had also discovered the true meaning of courage, friendship, and love. King Alden welcomed them back with open arms, and the people of Eldoria celebrated their return. But Eric knew that the real reward was not the glory or the praise, but the journey itself, the lessons they had learned, the bonds they had forged, and the light they had brought into a world that had been consumed by darkness. And so Eric and his friends lived on, always ready for the next adventure, knowing that as long as they stood together, there was no darkness they could not overcome.